and also before I forget, I think a lot of the members um don't understand that the ministers within the church, right? Their ministros or whatever, they don't know the damage they're doing to their lives, to the members' lives, because the ministers, part of them, are also victims of this big old lie, of this fairy tale, and they don't understand because a lot of them are incondicionales. They got married, so and they've always been surrounded by this whole idea of Naason being like right, the Superman of everyone, and so yeah, so I always thought like when I was breaking out of this lie, right, when I was finding my way out. I would look back and think of like all my ministers, like Brother Jack Freeman, all these people who were like they feel they in my mind, like in my heart or in my like in my mental, like deep in my thoughts, I would always say like, but they're nice people, like why would they do that to us? And then I started to realize they're also victims. They just don't know, and they didn't know the damage that they were doing to us. Kind of like a a snowball effect. It just goes down to the top. And obviously, when we get to the very top, as you get higher to that, to Nason, you start to find who knew, who knew when this happened, who knew when that girl got abused, and they covered this up. And as you get higher, bro, it just gets nastier and dark. And that's very important for members to understand because I remember when I first came out, telling some of my family members, they would tell me like, "Come on, you really think they would lie to us? Him, like the brother, he's nice or this or that." And I'm like, I didn't know how to explain that. Like, no, they're also victims. They just don't know, you know. I remember when we first got our minister here, where I'm staying at. He's very young, dude. I think he's younger than me, and he's a minister.
Mm.
Anyways, when he first called me, I remember he called me, and he was, he's being very nice. He's a very nice guy, dude. Like, he's very nice. He means well to me and my family. I know he does, but he's wrong. And I remember asking him, look, like, yeah, like you can come over whenever, like we can be the best of friends, but this is happening and I'm not just gonna move on like everyone else and ignore it. Because the more people do that, the more they feel like nothing's wrong because everyone is okay with it and they feel like that right there makes them feel like it's normal to live in this big old scandal of the century. And and I remember telling him like, hey, like, can we talk about it? And I had all these questions for him, and he just couldn't answer me, dude. None, no question at all, dude. None. I asked him, well, can you get a supervisor? Can you get a deacon? Can you get a pastor? And he never came. He never came back to visit. He never came back to, you know. Um, I mean, I don't know what kind of protocol they follow. I believe I heard a pastor was saying like members who have already left. They were just like, there's no right now what we're going through, like the devil is working so hard that any member right now that leaves because of what's going on, they're lost. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like they're lost. Like back then it was the opposite. Back then it's no, let's go look for our brothers and sisters. Let's go see where they're at. We have to go find them. We have to fight against the devil. Now it's like, nah, they're lost. They're apostates. We're condemned in life. We're condemned. We're already living. We're living in condemnation because of we just stopped believing in that song, or we have a few questions of them. Like, I mean, I don't know, but I
Yeah,
know I just kind of
yeah.
ranted there,
This
but
is a feature of like just being an adult, and this is something I pointed out in the video that I did the other day, where it was just a tour of like weird images of the fronts of churches, right? So this
yeah,
was a video that I did the other day, and basically I showed people the website, and I was like, look how hard it is to find Naason here. Look how very dumb and vanilla the website looks. But then once you go into, but then here's a litany of images of the actual insides of temples.
oh
Um,
yeah, they
a little bit before before Naason came into play, but when Naason comes in, and then of course there's logos everywhere and whatnot. One of the things that I pointed out in that video and that I love thinking about all the time is like it's like guys, there is this hierarchy in this church. We get it, okay? There's the members de la banca, then there's ministers, and there's layers to this thing. And
right.
the man at the very top, who's running this whole thing, who has the direct line to God and stuff, we don't have the direct line to him in that he has this nice little podiums and thrones and all that stuff, but never in La Luz del Mundo history is there, or never, just never, ever, ever, is there a chance where Nason sits up at the front of a church and he's not giving a speech and he's just answering questions like a town hall, like, just imagine that, like that seems like to make sense. Here's a chance for people who have questions about theology or whatever to ask the man directly. But instead, no, instead we have this, we never get to do that because the man is way up top and he's too busy, touring the world, looking for churches and doing whatever else he's doing. He's too busy doing that stuff. And so you have to go through this layer of like ministers, not all of which can answer their questions. And then some of which, there's a certain class of ministers that are incondicionales, unconditionals, which means that they literally just sign their lives away to whoever's the apostle at the time. And this is where arranged marriages come into play. So yeah, but basically the point that I'm pointing out is that like when you become an adult and you start to, develop your own manner of speaking and your own life and your own set of values and personhood separate from your parents, and then perhaps a little bit different from those around you in your community. You get to that point and you're an adult, and then suddenly you're not in kids studies anymore. You're an adult in La Luz Del Mundo. One thing all the adults should notice is that there is never an opportunity for Naason to just sit up in the front, and there's no, without the hype party around him, without the choir, without the fucking trumpets. Maybe leave the red carpet there for him if you want it that bad. But like, never is there an opportunity to talk to that man directly in some capacity, in some sort of dwindled down way, because when people always see him, there's just always fucking hype around him, right? And there's a fucking hype man, and then he comes in whenever he wants. He doesn't exactly come at the time that church starts. It's so stupid. It's so dumb. Like, no, like what kind of like you wouldn't want to work for a company like that, where the person or the CEO up at the top isn't receptive to all of his, employees, from top to bottom. You wouldn't want to be that. And then that should be the case even more so for like this religious organization. They're trying to sell you the product of Naason, of Naason being the only dude walking the face of the planet. 7 billion people, we found him. It's this fat Mexican man. He has the direct line to God and Jesus. And he has the direct line to God and Jesus. He could go to the bathroom right now, get on his knees and call him up like that, right? That's true, but like again, in La Luz Del Mundo, in La Luz Del Mundo, they sell you the story of how the distance between God and Jesus has been collapsed, and Naason can like directly get to him. Well, but we can't we on Earth, us mortals, can't even get directly to Naason. And that's because, the only way Naason is going to present himself in public is, with the hype party, with him as a product, with his being sold on Bibles and hymnarios and all that junk. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, yeah, I think. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I think a way, because so when Naason takes over, right, with Samuel, it was like he was always sick, so you couldn't really see him. And then once they would hear like his voice, I remember one time they played a recording of Samuel because he was very sick. No one has seen him for like in forever. And once they played just a recording, bro, the whole crowd went crazy, right? Oh, like everybody was yelling and screaming. So when that song takes over, I'm like, cool, like now we're gonna have an apostle who he's gonna be in our daily lives, walking in and out of our churches. We're all gonna say what's up to him. It's gonna be nice. We go up to him, and it's gonna be all love, because he's younger now. He's not as fragile like the other one, if that makes sense. Because how you're talking about you're the most powerful man in earth, but yet you're so fragile. You have security guards, and anyway. So I'm assuming like, okay, now someone's taking over. Um, you know, uh, it's gonna be different because before he was an apostle, a lot of members would say like, yeah, he's fun. We played this with them, tennis or whatever, not tennis, but uh,
Volleyball.
volleyball, and he was like, oh, whatever. But now he's an apostle. Now he's just way too busy, bro. Like, you know, um, you're not, dude. Like, all you're doing is it doesn't take you 3 months to get a plane ticket and go somewhere. Like it takes literally a few minutes to plan a trip. you know um And yeah, like I think that's a big role in keeping them exclusive. You know, because if the members were so used to always seeing him, you know, like normal, like a normal member, they will start to lose this, like, you know, like it's like, you know, you're not gonna see. I'm not gonna see Leonardo DiCaprio here, at, you know, where I live on the daily. After a while, I would see him as not a celebrity, but just as like a normal person. You get what I'm saying? I would start to lose that excitement if I was to see him a lot. So in that song, you know, they literally had to rebuild that with him because he wasn't as exclusive. Even no, actually, okay, scratch that. Even though he was the apostle's son, the Joaquins have always been like this exclusive, like, oh, you know, he's the son of the apostle, like, oh, yeah, that's his nephew. You know what I'm saying? Like people always feel towards that, towards the family, and I think that's not right. You know, you talk about equality, you talk about this and that, bro. They're the same people. You know what I'm saying? I don't get how, you know, Abdiel Joaquin shows up on this like crazy bro BMW one day. Crazy BMW shows up to take a prayer. Yeah, he says in the back, and we all have to give him money. They told us before, you know, show some gratitude by giving the money in his hand. And members know this. Like, I'm not making this up. I'm not trying to be like hating. It's just facts. You put some money in his hand, 20, whatever you have, put some money in his hand. Oh, yeah, and make sure you teach your kids the same teaching. Put money in your kids' hands and teach them the right way. Give them some money. And that way, my kids, I would put money in my kids' hands, bro, so that when they shake his hand, they would kiss his hand, they would give him the money also. So, um, yeah, I think that's how they keep him exclusive. They don't want to show him so much around people. So when he finally pops out, like the crowd goes wild and they sell them. They sell them.
Dude, this is what they
They,
do with like rappers, dude. Like I follow
exactly.
a lot of underground rappers, and you know maybe they don't have a big crowd, but you know there's always like a DJ or a hype man, and this is part of it. They basically, you know, the what I'm trying to say about Nason is like it's a lot of pyrotechnics, it's a lot of theater. It's like this is orchestrated stuff. You know, this isn't natural. Um, it's not like he actually, you know, just walked out of his house and then you actually burst into tears because you really felt it really powerfully and whatever. No, it was because like you're wearing white. Everyone's wearing white around you. There's fucking trumpets over there. There's fucking like everyone's busy. The streets are full. Um, is he gonna come out from his house? Is he gonna come out? Is he gonna walk over there? Is he gonna go in the fucking tunnel and come out from the bottom of the wedding cake church? Like
Yeah.
it's a bunch of hype, dude.
Why couldn't he
It
just
worked.
pop up out of this?
Uh-huh,
Why
uh-huh.
couldn't he just pop out of the stage? You know, just there already. Why does he have to like show up and walk in the middle of the crowd and everybody's, and then the person who's introducing him, right? It's usually a pastor or in the area supervisor. He has to like yell, the apostle is making his way, and he's yelling, bro, and the whole crowd goes crazy. Why just keep it, you know, just keep it relaxed, chill, everybody relax. Like now that I see it, um, it's just one big Naason's like you said, a product, and they know how to promote it very well and get people excited. Because if the members lose that excitement, dude, I think once they lose that excitement of Nason, which is supposedly la obra perfecta that they feel, it's all fanatism. But once they lose that, I think they can really start to think for themselves. Because that's one thing that always blocked me from being so from brainstorming now and thinking and wondering, having this like, you know, this feeling towards Nason would block me from going beyond my questions. You know, I remember I told you before when I'd be home and I would imagine, what if none of this was real? Like, I wonder what Nason does when he's just home. What kind of shows does he watch? What kind of show did he watch as a kid? Did he watch The Simpsons, King of the Hill? Like I just, and I'd feel so out of place thinking these things about an apostle. Like, oh, that's his personal life, Julian. What are you doing? You're sinning, dude. Like, don't. I would just wonder, like, you know, I would try to see, because our brain wants to picture him as a normal human being. But I bet you a lot of members don't even think that of him. Like, what did this guy do throughout the whole day? Is he always working like they say he does? He's tirelessly working? Of course not, dude. If he's not, you know, he's not. Um, Once we start to think all these normal things that humans do, then you start to lose this like fanatism starts to like die off, and as it dies off more, you're able to think more and not feel so bad about thinking. You know, I know it kind of sounds kind of weird, people would probably say like, why would you feel bad about thinking? But literally, you do. When you're thinking about the apostle and just the most normal thing about him, I would feel like out of place. I would feel really like I'm making this the biggest sin ever. So that kind of falls into like why they have to promote this man so much and keep him at this like level of like a god or something, like a little demigod or something.